All right, we're going to kick it off here in just a few minutes, so just bear with me, please, and we'll be right back. Thank you. All right, we're going to kick it off here in just a few minutes, so just bear with me, please, and we'll be right back. Thank you. All right, good morning, everybody. We're going to kick it off here momentarily, so just bear with me. We're a few minutes away from the live stream itself starting, so just hang tight. In the meantime, if you're on the YouTube or the Facebook channel, can you just type in on the comments if you can hear me and see me okay? Just a yes, please. We'll wait for somebody to reply. All right, well, we're going to make sure that people can hear me and see me before we get going. So if you are on it, you can just go into the comment sections of either YouTube or Facebook and just click on or type in yes, if you don't mind, please. All right, hang tight. Where's my phone? All right, Irene, thank you so much. Can you type a text, a message, I'm sorry, Irene, in the comments box? I just want to see if it pops up before we get started. Perfect. Yes, yes. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. We're waiting for our guests to chime in, and we're going to go ahead and kick it off. So please bear with me. Let me just get this going. All right, we're just waiting for this one. Oh, not in yet, so we're just going to give it about another minute. So just bear with me. And also, just so you know, this is technically a class on demand. This is what we're preparing for you to learn how to use this platform. A lot of people have been asking me what it is, how it works. Well, you're going to see how it works today if you haven't seen it before in any of our previous interviews. And so at the same time, it gives you the ability to just go ahead and brand yourself, which is what we really want to do. So let's just bear with me, please, as we wait. All right, so just bear with me, please. All right, so just bear with me. All right, we need to wait for our guest to get here. Let me see if he is here yet. All right, perfect. I see you, Mr. Evelar. Well, first of all, thank you so much, everybody, for being here this morning. Like I said, this is considered technically a class on demand. And what that means is that we're going to use this as a training platform for our agents so that they themselves can leverage this power when it comes to conducting interviews with your clients, whether it be in law enforcement or whether it be teachers, whatever. And then we'll show you how to host this, post this online, and all the other good stuff that goes with it. So in about 5 seconds, we're going to go ahead and officially kick it off so that way we can get going and you can benefit from the interview itself. So let me just go ahead and get this going, and we're going to kick it off. And again, this is part of our classes on demand, so we're going to kick it off with that intro in just 1 second. All right. So here we go. We're about 3, 2, 1, and we're going to kick it off officially right now. Good morning, everybody. My name is Javier Rodriguez, and I'm excited to be with you here today as part of our Rich Cop, Poor Cop interview series. And what this series is all about is about empowering law enforcement officers on how they can truly bulletproof their financial future, taking the money that they already make, no new money required most of the time, and at the same time, not just building a legacy for themselves and protecting their future during their working years, but beyond as well. Today, we're going to be interviewing one gentleman that I've known for a very long time, and I'm really glad that he's here for a couple of reasons, but primarily because, he's a good guy, and also because he's had the IUL, or Index Universal Life Policy, for over a decade. And so it's important to hear from people that have had it long term, because we deal with a lot of newer clients, but we also have some that have fully retired and are using the IUL as a cornerstone of that retirement to help them and their families as well. And so without any further ado, what I want to do is I want to introduce our guest today. And before I bring him up, I just want to tell you a little bit about him. He is a police officer in the greater LA, or in the LA area. He's been promoted to a canine officer, and that's his dog, which has a pretty cool name. His dog's name is Nemo, and Finding Nemo, I guess, finds all kinds of good stuff. But anyway, so he's been going at it for a long time with the police department, and he's had his IUL for a very long time as well. And he has now leveraged the power of the IUL for the next generation, which is his son, that I'm going to talk about here in just 1 second. So without any further ado, I want to see if he's here and ready to go. I want to bring on board Mr. or Officer Avelar. So let me see if Mr. Avelar is there in just 1 second. And we'll go ahead and take it from there. There you are. Good morning, Officer Avelar. How are you doing?
Good morning, Javier. How are you?
Very, very good. Thank you for your time. I know you worked last night. I know you worked late into the night. So getting up early for this is a big treat for us. And I just want to say thank you for that. I also know you have a baby. So the baby probably gets you up a little early, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah. 6 a.m, I'm up. No sleep for dad.
Yeah, there you go. Well, like I said, I really appreciate your time. I'm not going to take much of it, but I think it is important for everybody to kind of hear the message, because, as you know, I'm a big advocate, as you are, for the IUL as well, for a lot of different reasons. And all I really wanted to do was just ask you a few questions that maybe could help other police officers understand not just the power of it, but most importantly, the long-term benefits of the IUL. So having said that, if you're okay, I'd like to just get into some of the questions that I have for you. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Perfect. That way we don't take too much of your time. First of all, how long have you had your IUL now?
I had my IUL since 2007, so about 13 years now.
13 years. That's a long time. And, I think one of the things that I, respect you is because of the fact that you see the long-term value of the IUL, which is obviously what it's intended to do. And I think that once you get into the 13 years or so, it really drives home the importance of not just getting something, but keeping it. And so I just want to, thank you and commend you for doing that. And I think that one of the things that you have done, which I'll cover here in just a little bit, is served as an advocate to help other officers receive the same peace of mind and, of course, the benefits that come with it as well. The second question that I have for you is, what prompted you to begin with to get the IUL?
So I was very young in my career, and I was always looking for life insurance, because you always have that in the back of your mind, like, okay, what if something happens to me? Who's going to take care of my family? And at that time, I was not married. I didn't have any kids, but still, being the oldest of my family, and losing a father when I was 6 years old. And I saw the stress that my mom went through by not having life insurance. Pretty much, we went from having a steady income to not having anything. So given that, I didn't know much about it. I just needed to get an IUL. So I came in contact with a representative. I was actually looking for somewhat like a term insurance. And when he explained to me IUL, I always thought it was too good to be true. But it made sense. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have this whole life. And to this day, I just think that was probably the best investment I have ever done in my life, for myself and for my family and for my future.
Perfect. And that's, so important, because one of the things that's also very true is that, like you mentioned earlier, you did something for your future that in most cases, unfortunately, most police officers are not doing anything beyond just the basic pension, which is fine. A pension is good. I cannot argue with the pension, but it's better when you are supplementing it, not just throughout your retirement years, but also throughout your working years with the peace of mind that I was mentioning. We did a study and we found out that the average officer, if the average officer made just $75,000 a year, which in LA, in the LA area, they make more, way more than that. But if you make just $75,000, that would come out to about $1.8 million in a 25-year career. And as we all know, it's not about how much you make, but how much you keep. And so therefore, it's important for most officers to get something going so they can diversify their financial outlook as well. Thank you. The next question that I have for you is a pretty simple one as well. And that was in regards to the indexing versus the actual variable products. So what I mean by that is, as you know, with the IUL, your cash value grows based on the performance of the S&P 500, but it's not in the S&P. So when the S&P goes up, you go up with it. But when the S&P goes down, you just hang tight. You don't make any money, but most importantly, you're not losing any money. So my question to you is actually two parts. Number one, do you know of any officers that have lost money in their PSA, 403B, deferred comp, whatever they might be supplementing their income with? So do you know anybody that has lost any money? And also, how do you feel knowing that in the past 14 years, you've only gone up, you've never gone down, you've always moved forward, and you've never moved backwards? What are your thoughts?
So that's actually a very good question because I actually have both. I have an IUL and I have a 403B. And I got it around the same time. And it's mainly because some of these officers that when I came on as a young officer, they tell you to invest money and they tell you, okay, their heart is there and they do it in good faith. But obviously they're not really educated in the money wise. We're in the business of doing police work, not being financial advisors. So I was told that, okay, invest your money on a 403B or a deferred comp, maximize it. It's probably going to be the best investment you will ever do. And so I did. I got a 403B, but I also had an IUL. And I've been comparing them ever since I got both in 2007 till now. And boy, it's a headache. It got to the point where about 3-4 years ago, I completely stopped putting money into my 403B. And I whatever I was putting in my 403B, I switched it over to my IUL so I could add a little more money to my IUL. And every time in 2008 and 2013, I will see a drastic drop in my 403B. And it will go from having a certain amount of money to dropping, or at one point it was nearly half. And it's a little stressful because you're like, man, I'm putting all this money in, and man, I'm not going to see the benefits of it. And honestly, with other experiences that I had with IULs and 403B, is like it's just a headache. It's just a pain to even get a loan, to do anything out of your own money. It's just they give you such a hard time.
Yeah, one of the things I was mentioning along those lines to a friend, I just got my statement. I still have my deferred comp from my LAPD career, and I was showing him my statement. It dropped 35%. And so, I mean, I haven't put into it in 20 years, but the same as you. I mean, it turned into something that at least I have it. I'm glad that I did it because a lot of officers don't do anything beyond their pension. So I would say before you do nothing, do at least do that, max it out, do something. But if you really are open to a new and a better way, consider this. And so I think that's important, especially with you being able to look back and mention your story to so many younger officers. They can really see what this whole concept is about. And so I thank you for that as well. But I also want to ask you another question. And the next question that I want to ask you is something that's very important, because for me, I think that it's probably one of the most important things to worry about as a police officer. For most police officers, the biggest concern is getting injured. And so getting injured, we're talking about that if you do get injured and it happens on duty, it's considered IOD, but it maxes out at 12 months, regardless of how bad your injuries are. No, it doesn't matter. You go on state rate. And if, God forbid, it happens off duty, then you're really screwed, because at that point, of course, you're down to sick time. I know you guys work the compressed work schedule like so many other police departments. And so even if you have 100 hours and you're working the 312s or the 410s, that's a month. And after that, you're literally down to depleting your own assets, robbing Peter to pay Paul, or begging for hours from your coworkers or fundraisers, which we've done a lot for officers that go down with no proper protection. And so the question that I ask you is now with a baby, now with your wife, how do you feel about having the type of life insurance that you don't have to die to use? Meaning that if, God forbid, you go down with a chronic illness, on or off duty, you can access up to 2%. What do you think that plays into police officers' minds out there that lets them focus on their work and not worry?
Oh, let me tell you, those are good questions. First of all, I have a friend that came down with a colon cancer, and also he was, luckily for him, he had an IUL, and the stress that it relieved for him from not being able to worry about refinancing his house or the financial strain. So he was able to borrow money every month, and he helped him out with paying extra expenses on his chemotherapy. But but you're right. Like now, I'm to the point where it gives me a little bit more of an ease, knowing that if I do get injured off duty, if I do get injured on duty, or a chronic illness, I'm able to provide my family with that sort of an income, and I don't and it's stress free. Ultimately, the stress is a lot of cause of the factors that come afterwards. But yeah, it's great. It's just a big peace of mind. I couldn't be happier with my IUL, and I actually encourage everybody to get an IUL. I told my wife, I'm like, she's a nurse, and she was at work. They would tell her, oh, maximize your 401k, maximize your 401k, and I told her, negative, you're not gonna do that. So she ended up getting IUL as well, and with all the living benefits, and it gives her a peace of mind, because now at the beginning she was like, you just want me to get this stuff, I don't want to get it, and it sounds too good to be true. But I went ahead and I explained to her, I'm like, look, these are all the benefits that comes with it, and this is what we got to look out for the family. And once she saw that, she's like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. So now she's a big advocate as well for IULs.
Perfect. Thank you. And I think that that's very true, especially like I was just at a roll call. I actually had, I think it might still be here somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. I was just at a roll call this past, I think here it is, this past Wednesday, and everybody spread out, socially distancing and everything. And it was such a strong message for everybody for a couple of reasons, because obviously so many officers already have the actual IUL. Plus, on top of that, they've got people like you that they can ask, hey, is this the real deal? And anyways, I'm happy to report that out of the 4 officers, because not counting the supervisor, but the 4 officers that were there for the presentation, 3 already applied. One of them already got it for their son as well. And, it's definitely moving in the right direction, but it all starts, like you said, with education, to letting them know of what exists, because most officers out there have never even heard of it, let alone understand it, which brings me to the next question I wanted to bring up and mention to you, and that is going to be the IULs for babies. Because we think about IULs, it's perfect for adults, it's a must, in my opinion, for every adult out there. But at the same time, maybe this guy. I'm sure I'm gonna put up a picture here just 1 second. I don't know if you know him, but
Yeah.
that's your son and your other son. That we got Nemo, and that's your son on the right. And so the question that I have for you is, why did you go out of your way to fund and obtain an IUL for your son himself as well? You have one, your wife has one. Why for your son?
So I mean, there's many factors why I did it, and it's just, also we go back to the same thing. I mean, uh, I look at my son. I was like, man, I need to get him an IUL as soon as possible. I did it. I don't put a lot of money into it, but I remember one time you showed up to a one of our symposiums where you talked about uh, the IULs and what do you call it, rich dad? Oh, no, rich dad.
$1 million baby, $1 million
Yeah,
baby.
yeah, $1 million baby. There you go. So you went ahead and explained all the process and the benefits that will get at the end, and it just blew my mind. I was already thinking of getting a college fund for him, and it's funny that you mentioned that. I was at one of the roll calls, and the supervisor kept on telling us that his son just turned 17. He just got accepted to Channel Islands, and and he had a college fund for him when he was a year old or something like that. So at the end, he said that he had $30,000 in the college fund for him. Well, his first semester is about 30 grand as well, and he won't be able to use it for anything but tuition. So I was like, see, this is exactly why I want to get an IUL, because I'm gonna put money into this. And when he turns 18, I could use the money either for college, for a car, or I might not even give it to him. And maybe later on in life, after he gets his career, I could give him that IUL and tell him, hey, this is yours. You could use the money that you could borrow for a down payment of a house, or keep it. And man, you by the time you hit my age, you're gonna be a millionaire. So I wish my parents would have done that to me, but unfortunately, we're not really educated in this stuff like that. So I want to make sure that my son gets maximizes his IUL at a certain point, and just reap on the benefits of it. And like I said, my wife is pregnant. She's 8 months pregnant. We're about to have another son. So at 14 days after he's born, guess what I'm gonna get? An IUL for him too.
Perfect. You know what? I mentioned part of my story as well with my kids, how I did it the same way. And the middle daughter just started working as a registered nurse, and we put her through the entire thing with no student loan debt whatsoever, paid cash for every aspect of it. And because of the concepts that you're talking about, that I just wish I would have started sooner, just like you. But one of the things that we cannot do is jump in a time machine and go back in time. But it's amazing how we can do this for the next generation and teach them early what we sometimes learned a little too late. And so I have my first granddaughter 2 years ago, and personally, the first thing I did, just like you said, I got her an IUL, and that's her when I delivered it to her. And every year on her birthday, I just simply write a check for an annual contribution. It's not a lot; it's only $100, which is $1,200 a year. But it's amazing how the peace of mind from the living benefits, the cash value of college. And so we're going to start upping it this year a little bit more. And the beauty about it is you can add as much as you can or you want to. And literally, by the time they're, like you said, 18, what a better thing to do than leave your fingerprints in the future generations and show them how they can, like you said, buy a home, do this, do that. And there's no shortage of options when you do that. So thank you for that. And I commend you and congratulate you for doing that with your family as well. I was actually with an officer this past week when I was at the station, and I explained to him, he was wondering, should I do this much for me or this much for me and this much for my son? Because I go, look, it's all about the budget. You don't want to overstretch yourself. But when I told him my story, and I go, look, listen, there's nothing more fulfilling for a father, and I'm sure for a mother, than knowing that you took care of your kids where it matters the most. I don't want my kids, bogged down with student loan debt that they're never going to pay down, and this and that. And he thought about it, and I told him, there's nothing better to know that you're their financial pillar. And I go, especially law enforcement, man, we can work literally one extra shift a month and cover all the IULs that we have going for the whole family. And so now it's not about us. And so he thought about it. He goes, you know what? Leave my amount at the amount that I wanted to, and let's start a new one for him as well. He just got approved, as a matter of fact, this morning, and his son was approved yesterday as well. And that's what it's about. It's about definitely going ahead and doing that as well. So let me go ahead and take it to the next one because I don't want to take all your time. And here's a question that's sincere one. There's a lot of officers looking at this right now. We got a lot of people live, and we're going to have literally thousands looking at this later on once it's archived on both Facebook and YouTube. And the question is very simple. Have you had any negative experiences with your IUL in the 13 years that you had it?
No. It actually is the opposite. I had nothing but positive experiences with them. And now I'll give you a personal experience that I had about, I want to say maybe 6-7 years ago. I was buying a home, and I was about $12,000 to $13,000 short on my down payment. So I just couldn't do it. And it was a time where every offer that I put in, every house that I looked for, I was losing it to people overbidding, people making cash offers. So I kid you not, I must have done about 50 to 60 offers. And finally I found this home, and the sellers were willing to sell it to me, but they were like, okay, well, you need to come in. You're pretty much $12,000, $13,000 short. So I didn't know what to do. I contacted my 403B people. They gave me such a headache, to borrow my money, and I stopped dealing with them. And then I remember, I remember you, as a matter of fact, told me, he's like, "How come you don't get your money out of your IUL?" And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, let me give them a call." So I gave them a call. It literally took 10 minutes or maybe less. I called them. I told them, "Hey, how much money can I get?" They told me, "This is the amount of money you could get." I was like, "Wow, well, I don't need that much money. I just need 12 to 13,000." And they're like, "Okay, well, that's your money. How do you want it?" And I'm thinking, like, "What do you mean? Like, how do I want it?" He's like, "Yeah, do you want a check? Do you want a wire?" And I was like, "Oh, well, can you wire it to my bank account?" "Okay, it'll be there tomorrow." And I hung up the phone, and I just couldn't believe it, that it was that easy to borrow my money when I had just dealt with my 403b company, that he gave me paperwork after paperwork after paperwork that I had to get it approved, and I had to send it into a third party administrator to get it approved. It was just such a headache that I ended up not getting any money from them, for my own money. And with my IUL, it was just a phone call away, and it was done. I was so happy with it. And then another experience with them, it got financially, it got a little strained, so I had to drop my premium just a little bit. I called them, they're like, okay, boom, they fixed it. A couple of months later, I called them back, raised it up to how it was. But it's such a pleasant time dealing with the companies that is. I'm a big advocate. I tell people all the time, when they talk about life insurance, when they talk about investments, I tell them, man, the best thing to do is get an IUL. It's the best thing ever.
Perfect. Thank you. And you know what? It's so true, because that's a very common denominator. I mean, what we're talking about, sometimes there's overtime, sometimes there's no overtime. And it's nice to know, like I was telling the gentleman 2 days ago when he signed up, I go, for his particular policy, I go, you can, he started with like $300. I go, you could go as low as 125 if times get tough. You can go as high I think his maximum was like 980. And so there's a lot of leeway. And then, of course, we've got officers who have paid nothing into it. For the longest client that I have that has done that was actually a sergeant from your department that went 6 years without paying. And he actually started a new one with me over 10 years ago now. And he told me, look, I know what this is about. I just want to sign up. Take the application. And he goes, I had one, but I lost it. How did you lose it? And he told me, well, because I switched bank accounts and I never told them about the new account. So I'm sure it's gone. I go, well, no, that's not how it works. There's a minimum that has to be taken out of your account. And so anyways, long story, I go, before I take your application, go back, figure out what happened to the old one. And lo and behold, even though he hadn't paid in almost 6 years, he had $16,000 still in it. So had he passed away, had he needed any of the living benefits, it would have been there. For 6 years, he made no payments. And so he couldn't believe it. So we started a new one. We rolled the old money into the new one. So he started the brand new one with $16,000. I just looked at his annual report yesterday, and it's unbelievable how much it's grown. And all of it because of the flexibility that comes with it. One of the things that just blows my mind, it's just mind-boggling how few officers know about this. And even though we've made a tremendous push nationwide, it just blows me away how few officers know about this. And so one of the questions that I have for you is, you are, I should say, one of the IUL pioneers within your department. I know when I came in your department, that one sergeant that I'm telling you about, he had an IUL. Maybe 2-3 other people or officers had an IUL at the time. And before you know it, people started to rise, like you advocates, saying, look, listen to me, man, I've had this back then for 2 years, 3 years, now almost 14, 13 and a half years. So the question that I have for you is, how do you feel about being an advocate for the IUL? And number two, the second part is, what percentage of because it has grown like you wouldn't believe, of your entire department. It's one of the biggest departments around, of course. What percentage do you think now actually have an IUL, which just compared to 10 years ago was night and day? How, so those two parts. How do you feel about being a pioneer? Because you have been a pioneer there. And like I said, just that one sergeant that I know that had it a little longer than you. But beyond that, because of your advocacy, what percentage of the officers do you think that you work with, especially after this past week when I was there? What percentage do you think actually have one now?
So yeah, it feels great to be a pioneer. But even though like a lot of people still don't believe it, you tell them, you go and give them the information, and they still feel like this is way too good to be true. I'm also a big advocate of this product, not just for my department. I also do it with my family. I have a sister who's a sergeant at a different department than mine, and she didn't have it. I make sure I told her, look, these are all the benefits. This is what you need to do. And then she ended up getting one. Her husband got one, and then now she's an advocate in her department. So it feels great. It feels great to be able to educate all these people and encourage them into getting one. And going to the second question, believe it or not, a lot of people have them, but a lot of people still don't have them.
Yeah.
I want to say it's still a good 40% maybe, if that, they have it, because it just sounds too good to be true. And other people, they love to take risks. It's like going to Vegas. I had this conversation last night with some of the younger officers, where right now they're all into the stock market and they want to invest money and they want to do this because the stocks are low. But the stock market is like being in Vegas. Might as well put it on black and roulette. You just don't know. You might get a good day where you're gonna make money, and you might get a bad day where you're gonna lose a lot of money. So when I hear them talking about that stuff, I tell them, why don't you just invest in IULs? I'm like, yeah, stock market, there's a chance that you might make good money, but with your IUL, you're always gonna make money. And if you don't, like you said, it's just gonna flatten out, and you're gonna be put on timeout for that moment. But other than that, it's gonna be better for the long run in the future. Like I said, it's about 40. I want to say it's about 40%. So there's still about 60% of the people that need to get educated, need to get this IULs.
Perfect. And you know what? Last night, as a matter of fact, I called one of your coworkers because I want to congratulate him. His application had gotten approved, and then he called me about 10 minutes later. He was talking to his partner, and somebody was saying, "Oh, actually, no, because when the market goes down, you have to go down with it." So I told him, just put me on speakerphone. He put me on speakerphone, and I explained, "Look, listen, this is an index product. You're confusing it with the variable universal life. With the variable, it is variable. It's an investment. This is not an investment. This is a fixed product. You go up. If the S&P goes up, you go up. If it goes down, and then the question was, how can he not be going down? I go, because your returns are being mirrored off the S&P. It's not in the S&P. If it was in the S&P, it would be a security product, number one, and number two, you would lose money. But this is a fixed. I think it's okay. He goes, okay, when are you going to come back around? I go, well, I'll be back there. I'm going to be there next week, and we'll run your numbers. And so, sometimes you're right. You have to just provide that education because they're not in the business of that. And to be honest with you, I know people that are even in the financial industry that don't understand it and have a lot of misunderstandings behind it, which brings me to the last question. I want to get you back to your family and your baby. And the last question is pretty simple, but you kind of covered it already, but I still want to ask you, and that is, what do you say to the officers? And I'm sure you've heard this before, like you already mentioned it. It sounds too good to be true. And so I love that personally because I have a lot of input. I'm just curious, you as a client, as a police officer, and especially having had the product for so long, when I'm sure you heard it before, man, this sounds too good to be true. What do you say?
I usually tell them it is good and it is true. So, like I said, most of the time they ask me, I've been a police officer for about 15, 16 years. And so some of those guys, they kind of look up to the guys that are midway through their career. And whenever they have a question, they're like, hey, what about this? So you kind of do carry a little bit of weight for the younger generation. But yeah, they'll come up to me and they'll ask me, he's like, have you had this? Or how long have you had it? And once I tell them, I had this for 13 years. I had it for 10 years. I have one for my son. I did steal something from you, Javier, and that was I downloaded the app on my phone, and I show him my statements. I show him my son's statements. So and then I pulled out I pulled out like statements from like 2013, and I'm like, look, this is how it was then, and this is how it is now, and I compare it with my 403b. This is how it was then, and this is how it is now. Even though I don't put any money into this, but look at the difference. So once you explain and you give them those scenarios, they seem to understand and go along, and actually they ask really good questions, and some of the questions I don't have, but I mean answers I don't have, but then that's when I refer to you. But other than that, I tell them it is good and it's true. This is a true product that is going to help you in the long run with your investments and or with your future and your family. I mean, just the mere peace of mind. Like, I can't stress that enough, to know that my family is going to be taken care of if something happens. And anything can happen. Anything from a chronic injury, I mean, illness or injury on duty, or you just never know, car accident, anything. So just to know that my family is going to be taken care of, I'm happy, and it's one less stress that I have to deal with.
Perfect. And the good news is that even if something doesn't happen, maybe the thing that happens is your child goes to college and you want to help pay for it, or help your child buy that first home. And so that I was just yesterday or the other day, I was out when I was meeting with the officer with the baby. I showed him my app, and I showed not only my IULs but also my granddaughter. I go, look, she's 2 years old. We put 2,400 into it, and out of the 2,400, I have 1,600 of value. 1,600. So if you do the math, it's only costing me $22 a month. I mean, what do we spend $22 on nowadays, let alone on a monthly basis, to give your child a fighting chance at a future that they deserve. One last thing I forgot to mention, and I'm going to mention it to everybody in the audience right now that's live. We got a bunch of people. Is if you have a question, just go into the comments box of either YouTube if you're on YouTube or Facebook if you're on Facebook, and just type the letter Q and then your question after that for Officer Avalar, and so that way we can go ahead and wrap it up for everyone's sake. So just type in the word Q and then your question, and you just type in the letter Q, your question, and we'll put it up on the actual board as well if anybody has any questions. So let's give it a second, if you don't mind, to see if anybody has any questions. I want to make sure we give everyone a opportunity to do that. The last one that came in was, okay, Shazad just saying basically, okay, well, we showed it earlier, but she was just saying, good morning. Perfect. Thank you. And any questions for Officer Avalar? Again, having had the product for so long, his wife, kid, and so on. Anybody, any questions whatsoever, type them into the comment box at this point so we can go ahead and put it up and have him answer it as well. Unless we have a bunch of shy people, and maybe that's going to be a different story. But all right, well, we're going to give it about 5 seconds to see if anybody does pop up with any questions that they might have. We want to give everyone the opportunity to do that. If not, I'm not going to make it longer than we have to. I would really encourage anybody that is interested in learning about this from a law enforcement perspective, or an agent that works with law enforcement or wants to work with law enforcement, this is your opportunity to do that. So if no one has any other questions, I just really want to emphasize the importance of, believing in what you do, because what you do matters. And I just want to take a moment to, more than anything, say thank you, Officer Avalar. I know you worked again last night, and so a proper send-off and just say that we really appreciate all that you do. I know it's a tough job to carry out, especially as a canine handler in the whole 9 yards. And so again, we wish you nothing but safety out there. And one of the things I must say about you, that I've known you, like I said, for over a decade now, is, and I've seen you because I've come to see you, or I just show up as, sometimes to see other people. I've always seen you do the right thing. And so I thank you for serving the community the right way. And I think that that's one of the things that is part of our legacy, that when I was a police officer and I was a training officer, I always emphasized to people that, what you do matters, how you treat people, and so on. And I've always seen you do the right thing. I've always caught you doing the right thing. And I thank you for that, because our community needs more officers like you. And I thank you for your service, and I thank you for everything else as well. And for everybody else, one last call. Okay, I think we just got one question. All right, let's see. All right, well, we'll put it up there. I think you answered part of this already, but Vilma Castaneda says, what made you really take a look at the IUL? Can you cover that, please?
Yeah, so it was actually, like I said, it was something where, to be honest with you, it was my roommate. My roommate was the one that told me about it. We had already mentioned that we wanted and my roommate now is a sergeant with our department. He tells me, hey, have you looked into this product? And I'm like, well, I want to get life insurance, because we talked about, you just never know. So we might get shot. We might get a car accident. We work. We do a ugly job. Law enforcement is an ugly job, and it's dangerous. So you keep that in the back of your head. So I was looking into life insurance, and I mentioned it earlier. I was looking into term, because I'm like, well, at least it covers me from here to when I retired. But then they're like, well, we have a better product. We have this thing called an IUL. And they explained to me, and it just made total sense. I knew that was the way to go. And I was like, man, I get to pay life insurance, and I get to retire if I do make it up to retirement, which I hope I do. But I'm like, once I retire, I'm going to get a certain amount of money on a yearly basis. I was like, man, this is great. This is better than anything I could think of. So I signed up right away. I knew that was it. And that was a product that I was looking for. So I pretty much stumbled into it. I didn't really look for it. I was looking for something else when I came across the program, and I'm glad I did. I'm so glad I did.
Perfect. And last question that we're going to take, because this is the only one we have here, is from Adebayo Donkun, and his question is, what will you tell anyone that is on the fence?
So that's a good question. I usually get that from the younger guys. They'll tell me like, hey, I just spoke to Javier, and this is what he told me. And what do you think? I don't know. It sounds too good to be true. I'm interested, but I don't know. So I tell them, look, this is a program that when I was your age, when I was 26, 27 years old, I was in the fence as well. And it sounds like oh my God, $300, $200 out of my pocket, out of my checking account. But eventually, it's an investment that you spend $200 on something else. And like you said, Javier, that something's a overtime shift will cover it. And I tell them this is one of those things that 15 years from now, you're gonna tell yourself, man, I'm glad I spoke to him because this was probably the best investment I have ever done. So I always encourage them. I tell them, hey, you're welcome to look at my statements. I'm not shy. I'll show them to you. And if you have any questions, you talk to Javier. But yeah, I tell them this is one investment that you're not going to regret. You're not going to regret ever.
Perfect. Thank you. And, along those lines, one of those things that you're saying that is so true, what I show people with my statement is that, yeah, you might be putting in $200 a month, which is $2,400 a year. In 10 years, that's $24,000. But when you look at your statement and you have 18,000 of it in 10 years, it really only costs you just a few $1,000s for 10 years of peace of mind. And then, like what the officer just met with, we showed him at 15 years, based on what he paid in. Not only does he have everything he paid in, but another $8,000 on top of that.
Yeah.
So it's just incredible. I just want to say thank you once again and show you a comment from Adebayo. He says, thank you for your service, sir. Vilma,
Thank
as
you.
well. Thank you for your service. Be safe out there. And to everybody that joined us here today on this live one, we are doing this from time to time with different police officers from different departments. And I just want to say thank you for actually coming in and viewing this. And of course, I want to just say, Officer Avelar, thank you for your time once again, and wishing you and your family the best. And all that I ask is you please be safe out there, and I look forward to seeing you again real soon. So we don't have anything else. Thank you so much for your time once again. Have a great weekend. Rest up. You deserve it. And we'll be seeing you and everybody else and all of our viewers again real soon as well. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.